That's a struggle. That's okay. It's all worth it. Have to learn. You gotta keep going. Okay. The reason why I think most of us tip them upside down is so that you can get around the bottom end, clean it right out. That's important. And then you go up and start taking everything out. Works better that way. I like to open up there a little bit and then come down through here. Got this branch that wants to poke my eye out, so I had to get rid of it there, sorry. I like to come down like this. On both sides of the parts. You want to get down on both sides of the paraphernalia. And there's nothing like elk hide to dull your knife. So, you know, it's a Havilon, right? And I do have Havilon blades, but I find that I break them a lot, so I carry a sharpener. You want to get underneath the dirt chute. As you can see, this girl had a full night of eating and she forgot to poop. So there's lots in there coming out. It's not a race, guys. I love these late season hunts because there's no flies and bugs out there to bother you. And it's cooler out, so you have a little extra time. If it was hot right now and there was tons of flies, then I would say don't take your time. You got to get her done. But right now we're not running a race. We got what we want. Winter's full of good eating, and we just got to take care of her today. That's all we got to do now. We don't have to worry about an evening hunt or anything now. You want to be careful in there because you don't want to poke the bladder. You poke the bladder, well, you know what happens, right? And you pee yourself. And you really don't want to do that. You know, it keeps the meat way better if you don't poke bladders. So when you're going in there, you want to keep your knife all the way around to the outside. You don't want to go through the middle. And this is one of those knives that has a sharp point on it, and sometimes it's not as good because they're very sensitive. And, in Alberta, we have to keep the evidence of sex, which on a female is the udder. On the male, of course, is the testicles. Now, you can cut the testicles off and leave the penis, and they'll still charge you, likely. And same thing, if you leave the udle doodle down there and you cut off this, they might still charge you. So technically, we're supposed to leave the udder and or the testicles. And you know what? It has to be on the same side as the tag. It has to be. So if I was to accidentally cut this off right here, I'd better call Fish and Wildlife immediately and tell them I made a boo-boo. So one thing you want to remember in Alberta is always leave the udder on the same side as what the tag is on. Closer to where we want to be. Okay, I'm going up to the tummy now. Boy, that's a thick hide. You know, a lot of hair. I like to put my knife upside down. If I put it this way, I'd cut all that hair and I'd get tons and tons of hair in there. But if I put that knife on upside down and cut along, I don't get any hair. Right? See that? A lot of people know that already. But there's a lot that don't. You know, there'd be a tiny bit, but nowhere near the same amount. Okay, so now it's time to come down here. And it's already pudging up a little bit, so you want to be very careful. You don't want to poke the tummy. So if I find it's a little bit swollen, like this here, you can hear that? I'll come up higher, up to the brisket, okay? Right up to the brisket. Okay, you feel for the brisket, there's a bone there. You feel that bone, and that's where I start to go in, okay? Because usually at the brisket here, there's less pressure than there is down here. So I kind of get going a little bit, just like that. And then I'll put my fingers in there and make sure that I don't have too much of a problem still. I want to find that stomach lining. And then I do not want to cut through into the tummy. And here I can feel, here's this little lining right here. You gotta be very careful because it's right tight to the rest of it. There we go, we made it through, see? And then I put my finger in and I go very carefully all the way down. See that? And you put your fingers in, you want to go right to the pelvis. The pelvis is really important to get. Okay? And I will actually cut through the meat right here like this. Okay? And that spreads the pelvis just a little bit more. It gives you a little bit more room to work in there. See, it's very important. You need all the room you can get. And so now we've got that stomach lining all cut. This is actually the stomach. I'm going to roll my sleeve up or pull it up a little bit. And I'm going to go in here, poke my knife in there, and I'm going to find the diaphragm. And then I'm going to start cutting around the diaphragm. It really helps if you have a hand, but if you don't, be very careful when you're in there because you can really do some damage on your own digits. Okay, we got some branches in the way. That's okay, it happens from time to time. So I'm reaching in there as far as I can to do all the work that I need to do. And as you can tell, it's not really messy yet. It's going to be here right away because I shot this thing in the boiler room. Ideally, you need a saw here to cut through this brisket. I might just forget about it and just reach in there. A whole bunch of tissue in there. Got to be careful about and try to get it all out. Get it cut away from the rib cage. And you got to reach way in there, and you got to cut the esophagus or the windpipe. Once you cut the windpipe, you can pretty much pull. It is a bit difficult. You want it easy, you go sit in your armchair in the living room. You want to have some good eating and get it yourself, then you got to do this. And it's not bad. What I find with most people, they hurry it just a little bit too much. You can't do this until the animal is cut up properly inside and it's ready. You see my knife poking out the back end here. Just trying to get a little bit of spot there. I can get my hand in there. I pull it through. See? Cut this belly meat a little bit if I need to see better, especially on an elk because they're so big. Lots of tissues welding them together in there, so you gotta find them all. Alright, just like that, it's out. One of the greatest things there is for cleaning your hands of all the blood is snow. It's crazy. Cold snow is great for getting rid of blood I'm gonna lay my coat over it and leave human scent here so the coyotes leave it alone and the ravens won't come around. So I hate feeding the ravens and the coyotes. So the ground is frozen, so it's nothing but cold coming up from the ground. That'll cool her nicely. Can't get my glove on, my hand is wet. Guess what, glove? You're going on. You can see she'll cool nicely like that. Steam's just rolling out of her. It's beautiful.